The torch beam caught something that didn't belong. Matt stopped dead in the tunnel, his breath fogging in the cold air, and pointed the light at the corner of the abandoned drift. "Lads, look at this!" 3 of them had broken into the old Cortonwood site on a grey Saturday afternoon in March 2003. Urban explorers looking for photographs and stories. What they found was a neatly folded blanket, military style, tucked beside a rusted mining cart. Beside it sat 4 tin cans, labels long faded, stacked in a precise pyramid. "Someone's been here," whispered Jake, the youngest of them, his voice tight with excitement or fear, hard to tell which. "Recently, look, the dust's been disturbed." Matt crouched down, touched the blanket. It was damp, but not rotting, wool, heavy, the kind you'd find in an army surplus shop. The cans had been opened with something sharp, the metal peeled back in careful strips. No rust inside. "This is fresh, mate. Days old, maybe weeks." "Bollocks," said Connor, the group's leader, a stocky bloke from Sheffield who'd explored dozens of dead pits. "Nobody lives down here. It's been sealed since '85. Probably some homeless bloke sheltered here once." But his voice wavered. They all knew the mine had been locked tight, entrance bricked up, no way in, except the route they'd cut through with bolt cutters an hour ago. Matt stood, swept his torch deeper into the tunnel. The beam reached maybe 20 feet before the darkness swallowed it whole. "Let's keep going. If someone's here, they've gone deeper." They moved forward, boots crunching on loose coal and stone. The air grew thicker, colder, tasted of wet earth and something else, something lived in. 50 yards down, they found more evidence. A makeshift table built from old pit props, 2 plastic water bottles filled with clear liquid, a pile of clothes folded with military precision, and scratched into the wall in crude letters, "Tommy Clarke, still here, 19 years." The date beneath read February 2003. "Jesus Christ," Jake breathed. 19 years. He's saying he's been here 19 years. Connor ran his hand over the scratched letters, felt the grooves. That'd be 84, the strike year. This is someone's idea of a joke, has to be. But Matt wasn't listening. He'd heard something deeper in the tunnel, a scrape of movement, the sound of someone trying to stay very quiet and failing. "Hello?" he called out. His voice echoed down the drift, bounced off the walls, came back distorted. "We're not here to hurt you. We're just explorers. If you need help..." The attack came fast. A figure burst from the shadows, wild-haired, filthy, swinging a length of wood. Matt went down hard, the wood catching him across the shoulder. Connor grabbed the attacker from behind, wrestled him to the ground. "Stop! Stop! We're not police. We're not debt collectors." The figure went rigid at those last words, stopped fighting. In the torchlight, they saw him properly for the first time. A man, maybe 50, maybe older, impossible to tell under the grime. His hair hung past his shoulders, matted with coal dust and God knew what else. His beard reached his chest, grey-black, tangled. His clothes were rags, multiple layers, some recognisable as old mining gear from decades past. But his eyes were the worst part. Wild, terrified, animal eyes that hadn't seen daylight in so long they'd forgotten what it looked like. "Who sent you?" he rasped. His voice cracked from disuse. "Was it Mackenzie? Is he still looking? I can't pay. I told them I can't pay." Connor released him slowly, hands raised. "Nobody sent us, mate. We're urban explorers. We cut through the entrance seal to take photos, that's all. What's your name?" The man shrank back against the tunnel wall, pulled his knees to his chest. Tommy Clarke. You shouldn't be here. It's not safe. They'll find you. They'll find me." Matt sat up, rubbing his shoulder. "Tommy, how long have you been down here?" Tommy looked at him with those broken eyes. "Since '85. March 5th, 1985. The day the strike ended. Derek brought me a calendar once, years back, but I stopped counting. What year is it now?" When Connor told him it was 2003, Tommy laughed, a horrible sound that echoed through the tunnels like something dying. 19 years then. I was right. 19 years in the dark. If this story grabs you, hit subscribe and drop your thoughts below. Let's begin. It all started on the picket line at Orgreave, though if I'm honest, it started before that. Started the day Thatcher announced the pit closures, or maybe the day I was born into a mining family in Barnsley, 4th generation underground, destined for the coalface like my father and his father before him. But Orgreave, that's where it broke me. That's where I learned what the government thought of men like us. March 6th, 1984. I was 30 years old, married to Sarah for 8 years, 2 kids, Michael aged 7 and little Emma just turned 5. I worked at Cortonwood Colliery, had done since I was 16. Good pit, good lads, decent seam. Then the National Coal Board announced they'd close 20 pits, cut 20,000 jobs. Our pit was on the list. Just like that, our lives, our town, everything marked for death, because some accountants in London decided coal wasn't profitable enough. Arthur Scargill called the strike. The National Union of Miner Workers voted. Well, most regions voted. Yorkshire walked out immediately. I stood in the union hall with 200 other men, listened to our local rep, Big Jim Cowley, lay it out plain. If we don't fight now, there'll be no pits left in 5 years. No work, no future, no towns. We fight or we die. The vote was unanimous. We walked out that day, set up picket lines at the pit entrance, stopped the scabs from going in. Those first weeks felt like victory. The whole community stood together. Miners, wives, kids, even the shopkeepers. Food banks opened in the union halls. Women's support groups formed, organised soup kitchens and collections. Sarah threw herself into it, took Emma and Michael to the rallies, painted signs, shouted herself hoarse. But it was Derek who kept me sane. Derek Hughes, my best mate since school, worked the same shift as me, coalface gang. We'd spent 15 years underground together, knew each other's breathing patterns in the dark, could communicate with just a grunt and a nod. On the picket line, we stood shoulder to shoulder, same as always. "How long you reckon this'll last?" he asked me one cold April morning, breath steaming, hands wrapped round a cup of tea that had gone cold an hour ago. "Been dreaming, Tommy. Thatcher wants us gone. This is about breaking the unions, not about coal." He was right, of course, but I couldn't admit it then, couldn't face what it meant. The weeks stretched into months. May, June, July. The money ran out fast. Strike pay from the union was pittance, few quid a week, not enough to feed a family. Sarah went to the food bank twice a week, came home with tins and dried goods and shame in her eyes. I hated it, hated that I couldn't provide, hated watching my kids eat beans on toast for the 4th night running while I told them it was an adventure. That's when the loan sharks moved in. Blokes from Sheffield and Rotherham, not miners, just parasites who smelled opportunity in desperation. They came round the estates offering cash, easy terms, pay back when the strike's over and you're working again. Hundreds of families took the money. We held out until August, until Michael needed new shoes for school and we had nothing, not a penny. A bloke called Mackenzie knocked on our door. Short fella, sharp suit, sharper eyes. "Heard you might need a loan, Tommy. Help you through the hard times." "What's the interest?" I asked, knowing it'd be bad but not caring, because my son needed shoes. 20% monthly. Very reasonable given the circumstances. You'll be back at work soon. Piece of cake to pay back. 20%. I knew it was madness, knew it'd compound into something I couldn't handle, But Sarah was crying in the kitchen, and Michael was walking round in shoes 2 sizes too small, with cardboard stuffed in the soles. I took 200 quid, signed my name on a piece of paper, shook Mackenzie's hand. Didn't realise I'd just sold my future. Then came Orgreave, 18th of June, 84. The union called for mass picketing at the Orgreave corking plant in South Yorkshire. Stop the coke getting to the steelworks, choke the supply chain, force the government's hand. Thousands of us went, miners from all over Yorkshire, Nottinghamshire, Wales, Scotland. I went with Derek and a busload from our pit. We arrived at dawn. The police were already there, hundreds of them, riot gear, shields, horses, looking like an occupying army. We stood on one side of the field, they stood on the other, and for a few hours it was just shouting, singing, the usual picket line stuff. Then the police charged. No warning, no provocation that I saw, just suddenly they were running at us, batons out, horses thundering. I got hit across the back, went down, Derek pulled me up. "Run, Tommy, run!" We ran. Half of us scattered across the fields, police chasing, beating anyone they caught. I saw men dragged into police vans, blood streaming down their faces. Saw a horse trample a lad from Doncaster who couldn't get out of the way fast enough. Saw coppers laughing as they hit people who were already on the ground. It wasn't policing, it was warfare, and we were the enemy. I got arrested, along with Derek and 60 others. They threw us in cells in Sheffield, kept us overnight, charged us with riot and assault. The charges were lies. I'd thrown nothing, hit nobody, but they didn't care. They wanted to break us, criminalise us, make us afraid. They let us go the next morning without a word. When I got home, Sarah took one look at my face, at the bruises and the broken look in my eyes, and started crying. "It's not worth it, Tommy. Please, just let it go. Go back to work." But I couldn't. If I crossed the picket line, I'd be a scab. And scabs don't get forgiven in mining communities. I'd be dead to everyone I knew. The strike dragged on. Autumn turned to winter, coldest winter I can remember. We burned furniture to heat the house because we couldn't afford coal, the irony sharp enough to cut. The loan from Mackenzie was due in December. 200 quid had become 350 with interest. I didn't have it. I went to see him, tried to explain. He sat behind a desk in a shabby office above a betting shop in Rotherham, smiled at me with all the warmth of a snake. "I understand, Tommy. Hard times. Tell you what, I'll extend the loan, give you till March. But the interest keeps running." "How much by March?" I asked. He did the calculation on a piece of paper, slid it across the desk. 700 quid. I can't pay that, even if I'm back at work by then. Mackenzie leaned forward. "Then you'd better hope the strike ends soon, mate, because if you don't pay, I'll have to take collateral, your house, your car, whatever you've got. And if you've got nothing, well, we'll have to get creative." The way he said creative made my blood run cold. By February 85, the strike was dying. Men were going back to work in ones and twos, couldn't hold out any longer. Families starving, debts crushing them. The union tried to hold the line, but it was crumbling. Derek and I were some of the last holdouts. We stood on the picket line in the freeze and rain, just a dozen of us left, watching lorries roll in and out, watching our mates cross the line with their heads down, unable to meet our eyes. "It's over," Derek said quietly. "We lost, Tommy. Might as well admit it." On March 3rd, the union called a delegate conference. They voted to end the strike without an agreement, without winning a single concession. We'd been out for a year, a whole year of suffering for nothing. The pits would still close, the jobs would still go. We'd destroyed ourselves for nothing. I walked home from the Union Hall in the rain, walked right past my house, kept walking until I ended up at the pub. Drank 8 pints, one for every year of marriage I'd just ruined. When I finally went home, Sarah was waiting up. The bailiffs came today. They're taking the house, Tommy. We've got a week to get out. March 5th, 1985. The day the strike officially ended. The day I was supposed to go back to work and start rebuilding my life. Instead, I woke at 4 in the morning to someone hammering on the door. I stumbled downstairs, head pounding from the drink, opened the door to find 2 men I didn't know. Big lads, hard faces, Mackenzie's muscle. "You're Tommy Clarke?" "Yeah? What's this about?" The bigger one, shaved head, scar through his eyebrow, smiled without humour. "You owe Mackenzie 700 quid. He wants it today." "I don't have it. I'm going back to work today. I'll start paying back." The second one, stocky bloke with a broken nose, interrupted. "Not good enough. Today. 700, or we start taking things." Sarah appeared behind me, dressing gown pulled tight, face white. "We don't have it. We've got nothing. The bailiffs are already taking the house." Scarface shrugged. "Not our problem. You've got till tonight. Find the money, or we'll find it ourselves, and maybe we'll have a chat with your missus about how she can work off the debt." The way he looked at Sarah made me want to kill him, but I was a miner, not a fighter, and there were 2 of them. I shut the door, leaned against it, felt my whole world collapsing. "Tommy, what are we going to do?" Sarah asked, her voice small, terrified. "I don't know. I'll figure something out, I promise." But I had no idea, no plan, just panic rising in my throat like bile. I went to see Derek. He lived 3 streets over, a neat semi he'd bought before the strike. His wife Janet answered the door, looked at me with pity. "He's in the kitchen, Tommy. Go through." Derek was eating breakfast, toast and marmalade, reading the paper. Normal life resuming now the strike was done. He saw my face, put the paper down. "What's happened?" I told him everything, the debt, Mackenzie's men, the threat. Derek listened, jaw tight, then swore under his breath. "Mackenzie's a bastard, but he's not bluffing. He'll hurt Sarah, hurt the kids to make a point. You need to disappear, Tommy, just for a bit, till things cool down." "Disappear where? I've got no money, no family outside Barnsley. Where can I go?" Derek thought for a moment, then said something that changed everything. "The mine. The old workings at Cortonwood, the sealed sections. I know a way in through the ventilation shaft on the west side. Nobody goes there. Nobody knows about it. You could hide there, few days, maybe a week. Let Mackenzie think you've done a runner to London or somewhere. I'll bring you supplies, keep an eye on Sarah and the kids." I stared at him. "You serious? Hide in the mine? You got a better idea?" He was right. I didn't. The mine was the only place I knew better than my own house. 15 years working underground, I knew every tunnel, every drift, every dead end. I could navigate in pitch darkness by touch and memory. If I had to hide somewhere, it made a terrible kind of sense. I went home, told Sarah I had a plan, but couldn't tell her the details. The less you know, the safer you are. If Mackenzie's men come back, tell them I've gone. Tell them you don't know where. Take the kids to your sister's in Leeds. Stay there till this blows over. She grabbed my arm, tears streaming. "How long? When will you come back?" "Few days, a week at most. I promise, love, I'll sort this out." I held Michael and Emma, memorised the feel of 'em, because some part of me already knew I was lying, knew I wouldn't be back in a week. That night, Derek met me at the old ventilation shaft on the west edge of the Cortonwood site. We'd worked this area before the strike, knew it was scheduled for sealing, but hadn't been done yet. The shaft entrance was hidden behind overgrown bushes, the metal grate rusted but movable. Derek had brought supplies, a torch, batteries, tinned food, water bottles, blankets, a camping stove. This should last you a week. I'll come back in 3 days with more. There's a good spot about half a mile down, old equipment storage room. You remember it? Yeah, I remember. Derek, mate, I don't know how to thank you. He gripped my shoulder. You'd do the same for me. Keep your head down, stay quiet. I'll sort this with Mackenzie, talk to him, buy you some time. We shook hands, and then I climbed down into the shaft, into the darkness that had been my workplace for 15 years, the darkness that was about to become my prison. The first few days were meant to be temporary. I set up camp in the old storage room, a dry space with good ventilation, far enough from the entrance that no sound would carry. I rationed the food, drank sparingly, kept the torch off except when necessary to save batteries. The darkness was absolute, heavier than any darkness I'd known on shift, because this time I was alone. No crew, no banter, no shift end to look forward to. Just me and the weight of the earth above. Derek came on day 3 as promised, brought more supplies and bad news. Mackenzie's looking for you. Been to your house twice, threatened Sarah. I convinced him you'd legged it to London, gave him some story about you having a cousin there. He's not happy, but he's backed off for now. Sarah and the kids are at her sister's, they're safe. Relief flooded through me. How long till I can come back? Derek's face told me everything. Tommy, mate, the bailiffs seized your house yesterday. Sarah's got nothing. And Mackenzie, he's not the forgiving type. Even if you paid him back, he'd still want revenge for making him look bad. You can't come back. Not for a while. Maybe months. Months. The word hung in the air between us like a death sentence. I can't stay down here for months, Derek. I'll go mad. Derek put the supplies down, met my eyes. What choice have you got? Go back up. They'll put you in hospital or worse. Sarah needs you alive, even if you're down here. I'll keep bringing supplies, keep you updated. You just survive. That's all you can do. After he left, I sat in the dark and realised I'd made a terrible mistake. But it was too late to go back. The weeks became months without me noticing. Time underground has no meaning when there's no sun to mark the days, no clock to watch, no routine except the one you make yourself. I created a life in the dark, pathetic as it sounds. Woke when I woke, ate when hungry, slept when exhausted. Derek came every week, sometimes twice, always at night, always checking first that nobody was watching. He'd lower supplies down the shaft in a rope bag, climb down for a quick chat, give me news from the surface. Sarah's still at her sister's. She thinks you're hiding somewhere in Scotland, working under a false name. I couldn't tell her the truth, Tommy. She'd think you'd lost your mind. Maybe I had. Maybe staying underground instead of facing Mackenzie was madness. But every time I thought about going up, panic seized my chest. Up there meant debt collectors, violence, shame. Down here I was safe, hidden, forgotten. The mine became my world. I explored it like an archaeologist studying ruins, mapping the tunnels by touch and memory, finding old workings from decades past, abandoned equipment, lunchboxes left by miners from the 70s with their names still scratched on the metal. I found a better living space in the 3rd month, a small dead-end drift that had good airflow and a natural shelf in the rock where I could store supplies. I built furniture from old pit props and planks scavenged from collapsed areas, A bed frame, a table, shelves for my tins. It was almost domestic, almost normal, if you ignored the fact that I was living like a rat in the darkness beneath Yorkshire. Derek brought me books sometimes, novels from charity shops. I read them by torchlight, rationing the batteries like gold. Read the same books over and over until I could recite passages from memory. "How long now?" I asked Derek on one visit, 6 months in, maybe 7. I'd stopped counting properly. "How long what?" "How long till I can come back up? Mackenzie must have moved on by now." Derek's face went tight. "He hasn't moved on, mate. He's worse. Found out I helped you disappear, came to my house last month, roughed me up a bit. Warned me that if you ever surface, he'll finish what he started. And Tommy, there's more. The pit's closing. Cortonwood's done. They're sealing all the shafts next month, making it permanent." My stomach dropped. "Sealing? They can't seal it with me inside." "They don't know you're inside. I'm trying to delay it, filed complaints about safety checks, but it's coming. You need to decide. Come up now and face Mackenzie, or stay down and risk being sealed in." I should have chosen to come up. Any rational person would have. But I wasn't rational anymore. The thought of the surface terrified me more than being sealed underground. "I'll stay. I know these tunnels. I can find another way out if they seal the ventilation shaft. I'll be fine." Derek looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "You're serious? Tommy, you can't live down here forever. What about Sarah, the kids?" "They're better off thinking I'm in Scotland. At least that way they've got hope I'll come back someday. If I go up now and Mackenzie kills me, they've got nothing." It was the logic of a broken man, but it made sense to me then. Derek shook his head, but he didn't argue. Just brought me more supplies, extra batteries, a better torch. "You're my mate, Tommy, but I think you've lost it. I'll keep helping long as I can, but this can't go on forever." They sealed the main shafts in November, 8 months after I went underground. I heard the work crews above, the machinery, the grinding of concrete being poured. The ventilation shaft Derek and I used was further out, not on the official plans, so it stayed open. But the message was clear. Cortonwood was dead. The mine that had employed my father, my grandfather, that had been the heart of our community, was being erased. I sat in my little drift and cried for the first time since I'd come down. Cried for the pit, for my life, for everything I'd lost. The isolation started eating at me around the 1-year mark. I'd always been a social person, loved the camaraderie of the coalface, the banter with the lads. Down here, there was nothing but my own voice echoing back at me. I started talking to myself, full conversations, asking questions and answering them in different voices. "What's for dinner tonight, Tommy?" "Beans and tinned peaches, same as yesterday." "Lovely, my favourite." I knew it was madness, but it helped. Gave structure to the endless dark. Derek's visits became my lifeline, the only thing marking time. He came every 10 days or so, brought food, batteries, news. "Sarah filed for divorce last month. She thinks you abandoned her, ran off to avoid the debt." "I'm sorry, mate." I nodded, numb. "She's right to. I did abandon her, just not the way she thinks. How are the kids?" "Growing up without a dad. Michael's 13 now, angry at the world. Emma barely remembers you." Each update was a knife in my chest. But I'd made my choice. I'd chosen survival over family, cowardice over courage. Years passed. I stopped asking Derek when I could come back up. We both knew the answer was never. The debt had grown beyond money now. Mackenzie had made it personal, told everyone I'd humiliated him, made him look weak. If I surfaced, he'd kill me just to prove a point. So I stayed in my underground tomb, living like a ghost, forgotten by everyone except Derek. I developed routines to stay sane. Wake up, do exercises, press-ups and sit-ups in the dark. Eat breakfast, always the same, tinned fruit and water. Read for 2 hours by torchlight. Explore the tunnels, walking miles through the abandoned workings. Lunch, more reading. Exercises again. Dinner, sleep, repeat. Every day the same. Every day another step further from the person I'd been. Sometimes I'd venture close to the surface, climb up the ventilation shaft to the grate, listen to the world above. Cars passing on the distant road, birds singing, rain falling. Once I heard children playing, their laughter carrying across the fields, and I broke down sobbing because one of them sounded like Emma. I wanted to push the grate open, climb out, feel the sun on my face. But fear held me down, fear stronger than any chain. I climbed back down to my drift, to my darkness, to my half-life. Derek died in 2001. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. He was 54 years old. I didn't know for 3 weeks. I waited for his visit, 10 days, 12, 14, started rationing the food, making it last. By week 3, I knew something was wrong. Derek had never missed a visit, not in 16 years. I climbed to the ventilation shaft, pushed the grate open an inch, listened. Nothing. No sign of him. Panic set in. Without Derek, I had no supplies, no contact with the outside world, no lifeline. I was truly alone. I survived on the emergency stash I'd built up, tins and bottles cached in different parts of the tunnel system. Started venturing out at night through the ventilation shaft, stealing from the village. First time I climbed out into the night air, I nearly collapsed. The sky was too big, too open. The stars made me dizzy. I'd been underground for 16 years, and my body had forgotten what space felt like. I stumbled to the edge of the old colliery site, now overgrown and forgotten, made my way to the village. Everything had changed. New houses where the miners' welfare had been. The corner shop was now a Tesco Express. The pub where I'd drunk away my last free night had been converted into flats. I stole from the Tesco at 3 in the morning, broke a window in the back, grabbed tins and bottles and bread, set off the alarm but was gone before anyone came. Did it again a week later, different shop. Became good at it, quick and quiet, in and out like a ghost. The local paper, which I stole along with the food, ran stories about the mysterious break-ins. Phantom thief strikes again. They never caught me because they never imagined someone was living in the sealed mine. I was invisible, but the isolation was destroying my mind. 17 years, 18 years underground. I started seeing things that weren't there. Derek appeared sometimes, solid as life, sitting at my makeshift table. "All right, Tommy, brought you some supplies." I'd talked to him for hours before remembering he was dead. Sarah visited too, younger, the way she'd looked before the strike. "When are you coming home, love? Kids miss you." I'd tell her soon, just a bit longer. Then she'd fade like smoke, and I'd be alone again, with the darkness and the silence. I carved names into the tunnel walls. Sarah, Michael, Emma, Derek, my father, my mother, everyone I'd known and lost. Hundreds of names, a memorial to my dead life. I carved dates too, trying to keep track of time, but they stopped making sense. Was it 2002 or 2003? Had I been down here 19 years or 20? I couldn't remember anymore. The years had blurred into one endless night. I found myself talking to the mine itself, asking it questions. Did you miss us when they closed you? Do you remember the men who worked you, their voices, their songs? Sometimes I swore the mine answered back, creaks and groans that sounded almost like words. I knew I was going mad, knew I should end it, climb to the surface and let Mackenzie do his worst. Death would be better than this living death. But I couldn't. Survival instinct, or cowardice, kept me breathing, eating, existing in the dark. I thought about suicide often, planned it in detail. I could walk deeper into the mine, find an unstable section, trigger a collapse, be buried forever, quick and final. Or I could just stop eating, lie down in my drift and wait for the end. But every time I got close, some part of me refused, some stubborn piece of Tommy Clarke that still wanted to live, even if this wasn't really living. So I continued, day after day, month after year, a ghost haunting his own grave. The voices woke me, real voices, not the ghosts in my head. Young men, laughing, talking, the sound of footsteps echoing through the tunnels. I froze in my drift, heart hammering. Someone had found a way in. After 19 years of solitude, someone was here. My first instinct was terror. Mackenzie's men, come to finish the job. I grabbed my weapon, a length of wood I'd kept for exactly this scenario, pressed myself against the wall in the darkness. The voices got closer. Torches swept the tunnel, beams of light cutting through the black like knives. "Look at this, lads! Someone's been here. Recently." They'd found my outer cache, the supplies I kept near the ventilation shaft. My mind raced. Fight or hide, run deeper into the mine or face them. The decision was made for me when one of them called out, "Hello, we're not here to hurt you, we're just explorers. If you need help." Explorers? Not Mackenzie, not debt collectors, just kids with torches looking for adventure. But 19 years of fear don't disappear in an instant. I charged them, swinging the wood, connected with one of them. Wanted to drive them out, protect my space, my safety. They fought back, grabbed me, wrestled me down. I was stronger than I looked. Years of manual labour and living rough had kept me wiry. But there were 3 of them. "Stop! Stop! We're not police! We're not debt collectors!" The words broke through my panic. Not debt collectors. I stopped fighting, went limp, let them pin me. In the torchlight I saw them properly. Young lads, maybe 20s, modern clothes, expensive torches. They saw me too, and the shock on their faces cut deep. I knew what they saw. A creature, more animal than man, filthy beyond description, hair and beard wild, eyes mad. "Who sent you?" I rasped. My voice sounded inhuman even to my own ears. "Was it Mackenzie? Is he still looking?" They looked at each other, confused. The stocky one, clearly the leader, spoke carefully. "Nobody sent us, mate. We're urban explorers. We cut through the entrance seal to take photos, that's all. What's your name?" I couldn't remember the last time someone asked me name. Tommy Clarke. You shouldn't be here. It's not safe." But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. They were safe. I was the dangerous thing down here. They asked me how long. I told them. 19 years. Since March 5th, 1985. Watched their faces process it. Disbelief, turn into horror, turn into pity. The youngest one couldn't have been more than 20, whispered, "Jesus Christ," like a prayer. They gave me water, food from their packs, real food, sandwiches and chocolate and crisps. I ate like an animal, couldn't help myself, hadn't tasted anything but stolen tins in months. They sat with me, asked gentle questions. "Why did you come down here? What happened? Can we help?" I told them everything. The strike, the debt, Mackenzie, Derek, the years bleeding together in the dark. Told them things I hadn't said out loud in decades, things I'd only whispered to ghosts. They listened, didn't interrupt, didn't judge. When I finished, the leader, his name was Connor, said something that changed everything. "Tommy, mate, Mackenzie's dead. Has been for years. Died in 98. Heart attack. Nobody's looking for you. Nobody even remembers the debt. You can come up. You're free. Free." A word meant nothing. I'd been underground so long, I didn't know what freedom looked like anymore. My family, Sarah, the kids, are they? Connor pulled out a mobile phone, something I'd only heard about on Derek's old radio. "What's her full name? We can try to find her." He searched, showed me the screen. Sarah Clarke, Leeds, Facebook profile with a photo. She was older, grey-haired, but still beautiful. Still alive. The bio said, "Mum to Michael and Emma, nan to 5 beautiful grandchildren." Grandchildren? My children had children. I'd missed everything. "I want to see the sun," I said quietly. "I want to go up." They helped me stand, supported me through the tunnels. My legs shook with every step. We reached the ventilation shaft, started climbing. The grate at the top was rusted but movable. Connor pushed it open. Light flooded down, real sunlight, afternoon sun, warm and bright and utterly blinding. I screamed, covered my eyes, nearly fell. They caught me, held me steady. "Easy, mate, your eyes need to adjust. Take your time." Slowly, painfully, I opened my eyes. The world above was green and gold and blue, colours so vivid they hurt. Trees moving in the breeze, clouds drifting across an impossible sky. The air smelled of grass and flowers and life. I pulled myself out of the shaft, collapsed on the ground, pressed my face into the earth. Sobbed like a child, great heaving sobs that shook my whole body. 19 years in the dark. 19 years of half-life, of madness, of existing without living. And now the sun was on my back, the wind was on my face, and I was alive, properly alive, for the first time since 1985. The lads called an ambulance. Paramedics came, wrapped me in a thermal blanket, checked my vitals. I was malnourished, dehydrated, vitamin deficient, but alive. Impossibly alive. They took me to hospital in Barnsley, the same hospital where Emma was born 28 years ago. The staff stared, the story spreading fast. The miner who lived underground for 19 years. The ghost of Cortonwood. Police came, asked questions, but there was nothing to charge me with. Theft of a few tins from Tesco? They wrote it off as survival. Mackenzie was long dead, the debt legally expired. I was, technically, free. Connor and his mates visited me in hospital, brought newspapers with my story on the front page. The last miner of Yorkshire. They'd made me famous, but I didn't want fame. I wanted my family. They found Sarah for me, contacted her through Facebook. She didn't believe it at first, thought it was a cruel hoax, but they sent photos, details only I would know. She agreed to come, brought Michael and Emma. They visited on a Wednesday afternoon, 3 weeks after I'd surfaced. I was cleaned up by then, hair cut, beard trimmed, wearing normal clothes, but I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Sarah walked into my hospital room and stopped dead. She was 63 now, elegant grey hair, lines around her eyes, still beautiful. Michael and Emma stood behind her, middle-aged strangers with my features. None of them spoke. I broke the silence. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was a coward. I chose the dark instead of facing life, and I can never make that right. Sarah started crying, sat in the chair beside my bed, took my hand. It was the first human touch I'd had in 19 years that wasn't violent or medical. You stupid, stupid man. We mourned you. We buried you in our hearts. And you were underground the whole time, just 5 miles from my sister's house. We talked for hours. I met my grandchildren through photos on Sarah's phone. 5 of them, beautiful and alive and strangers. I'd missed everything. First days of school, graduations, weddings, births. I'd lost 19 years to fear and darkness and my own broken mind. Michael was angry, wouldn't look at me. You chose this. You chose to hide instead of being a father. He was right. Emma was quieter, sadder. I used to dream you'd come back. When I was little, I'd dream you'd walk through the door and everything would be okay. I had no defense, no justification. I'd failed them in every way a father could fail. But Sarah, impossibly, offered something I didn't deserve. You can't get those years back, Tommy, but you're here now, alive. That's something. We'll figure out what comes next. What came next was slow and painful. Therapy for PTSD, for the years of isolation. Adjusting to modern life, to technology, to a world that had moved on without me. Learning to sleep without the darkness, to walk without walls close on either side, to be around people without panicking. I gave interviews, told my story. Some people called me a coward. They were right. Some called me a victim of Thatcher's war on miners. They were partly right. But mostly, I was just a man who made a terrible choice in a moment of fear, and then was too broken to unmake it. The mine gave me shelter, but it took my life in exchange. I survived, but I didn't live. Not for 19 years. I'm 68 now, living in a small flat in Barnsley, 5 years since I came up. I see Sarah sometimes. We've built something like friendship from the wreckage of our marriage. I know my grandchildren's names, see them at Christmas. Michael still barely speaks to me. Emma tries harder. The nightmares haven't stopped. I still wake up in darkness, convinced I'm back in the drift, alone forever. But every morning I open the curtains, let the light in, remind myself I'm free. The mine is still down there, sealed and forgotten. My makeshift home in the darkness, the names carved on the walls, the ghost of Tommy Clarke, who lived underground for 19 years. Sometimes I dream about going back, about the simplicity of that half-life, where the biggest decision was which tin to open for dinner. But I don't go back. I stay in the light, however much it hurts, because I learned the hard way that surviving isn't the same as living. And I've got some living left to do.